Joe Harper's hands were stained with oil, his shirt clung to his back with sweat, and his lunch break had long passed unnoticed. It was another regular day at the regional airfield just outside of Houston, Texas. Joe didn't mind the long hours. He was used to it. Being a single father raising his 12-year-old son Cody left little room for rest or luxury. But what he lacked in money, he made up for in integrity and work ethic. That morning, a sleek private jet landed unexpectedly, its silver fuselage gleaming like it had never seen a cloud. Word traveled fast in the hangar. Michael Langford, a billionaire tech mogul, was flying through for an urgent investor meeting in LA. The jet had stopped for routine refueling and inspection. The mechanics gathered around to admire the aircraft, but most kept a respectful distance. Joe, however, couldn't help but frown. As he passed the jet's nose, he paused, cocking his head. Something was off. A faint whirring sound, like a loose gear rubbing where it shouldn't. The others didn't notice it, but Joe's ears had been trained over 2 decades. He grabbed a flashlight and crouched under the aircraft's belly. "Joe," his supervisor called out, "leave it. It's a luxury jet. Fully automated diagnostics. We just top off the fuel." But Joe was already digging in. It wasn't about money or whose name was on the tail of the jet. If something sounded wrong, it was wrong. What he found chilled him. A vibration sensor tied to the jet's auxiliary power unit was loose, one that directly controlled the aircraft's backup power and auto-navigation systems. If left unfixed and the main system glitched mid-air, the jet would become a 1,000-mile-an-hour bullet with no control. He reported it to the shift manager, but the guy brushed it off, muttering something about not getting sued for delaying a billionaire's flight. Joe, though, couldn't walk away. He logged it officially and insisted they delay takeoff until it was addressed. The manager relented under pressure, but warned Joe, "You're gonna pay for slowing down VIP travel." By then, Langford himself had exited his SUV, confused by the delay. Joe, wiping his hands on a rag, approached him respectfully and explained the situation. Most folks in Joe's shoes would have been intimidated. Not Joe. Truth was truth. Langford narrowed his eyes. "I have the most advanced systems money can buy. You sure your ears know better than my tech?" Joe didn't flinch. "Sir, your systems are great until they fail, and when they do, you better hope someone like me's around." Langford stared at him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Okay, fix it. I trust your judgment." It took only 45 minutes. The sensor was reseated and secured properly. The inspection was logged. Langford thanked him and boarded his jet without another word. The engines fired, the jet taxied down the runway, and just like that, it was gone. By the end of the shift, everyone had moved on. Joe received no bonus, no handshake, not even a thank you from his manager. Just another long day. When he got home, Cody met him on the porch with a plate of microwaved mac and cheese. "Did you get fired today?" he joked. Joe laughed. "Not yet. Just saved a billionaire's butt. No big deal." They shared the meal under the stars, Cody already asking questions about engines and sensors. Joe's world was small, but it was honest. He had no idea that within 24 hours everything would change. The next morning, his story would be all over the news. A billionaire jet owner had halted his meeting in Los Angeles, flown back to Texas, and told the world he had a life debt to repay. And Joe Harper, the poor mechanic no one ever noticed, was about to become a household name. The morning news was buzzing with a story that caught Joe completely off guard. The billionaire Michael Langford had returned to Houston the night before, holding an impromptu press conference outside the very hangar where Joe worked. Langford stood at the podium, a confident man used to commanding attention, but his words were humble, even emotional. "I owe my life to a man you probably haven't heard of," Langford told the gathered reporters and cameras. "Joe Harper, a mechanic at our refueling base, found a critical fault in my jet's backup systems that no one else noticed. Because of his attention to detail and courage to speak up, a catastrophe was averted." The cameras flashed. and Joe, sitting at a greasy diner table with Cody, watched the live broadcast in disbelief. His phone buzzed non-stop, texts and calls from friends, neighbors, even strangers congratulating him. The next day, Joe was summoned to the Billionaire's office in downtown Houston. The building itself was a marvel of glass and steel, a far cry from the dusty hangar he called his workplace. Langford greeted Joe warmly. "I want to make sure you know how serious I am about this. Not just words." Joe shifted uncomfortably. "I'm just doing my job, sir." Langford smiled. "Well, your job saved lives, and I want to offer you a chance to change yours." Joe listened as Langford laid out his proposal, a scholarship fund for Joe's son, Cody, to attend one of the best STEM schools in the country. Not only that, Langford offered to invest in upgrading the airfield's maintenance facilities, ensuring mechanics like Joe had the tools they needed. But there was more. "I want you to lead a new training program," Langford said, "to teach young people how important these small details are, to inspire them like you inspired me." Joe was stunned. He thought about the years he'd spent scraping by, working long hours just to keep the bills paid and give Cody a better future. Now, everything was shifting. But it wasn't just about money or opportunity. It was the recognition. For the first time, someone had seen Joe's value beyond the grease, stained hands and worn-out boots. Over the following weeks, Joe began training local teens in the new program. Cody, who had always admired his dad's work, but never fully understood it, joined in enthusiastically. They fixed engines, studied mechanics, and learned to never overlook the little things that could mean the difference between life and death. Langford's company also started hiring apprentices from Joe's program, creating real career paths for kids who might otherwise have fallen through the cracks. One afternoon, as Joe and Cody worked on a vintage airplane engine in the upgraded hangar, Langford stopped by. He watched the father and son with a satisfied smile. "Joe, you've done more than fix a sensor," he said. "You've built a community. You've shown me that greatness isn't about money or power. It's about heart and honesty." Joe nodded, thinking about how far they'd come. He'd started out just wanting to provide for his son. Now, they were part of something bigger, something that could change lives for generations. That night, back at their modest home, Joe tucked Cody into bed. "You know, buddy," Joe said softly, "sometimes the smallest things can save the day." Cody smiled sleepily. "Like your big hands?" Joe laughed. "Exactly like that." As the city lights twinkled outside their window, Joe felt hope he hadn't known in years. The future wasn't just a dream anymore. It was waiting to be built. And it all started with one mechanic's courage to trust his instincts.